really, this might be one of the most under discussed massive stories that is going to like legitimately change and shape a league for the rest of time. And like, it just feels like the most underreported and under discussed thing of all time. Today, the NBA owners all met and they voted on expansion throughout the league. A two-team expansion rooted in Seattle and Vegas will be like the two options that they will be exploring. And Bill Simmons reported this the other day that they needed 23 votes and he was uncertain that the threshold would be met. Today, they run the vote and it is voted on by all 30 owners. Yes, the answer I'm sure you're going to say what's changed, like why has it went from uncertainty to an absolute. And I think just plain and simple the answer is money. These expansion franchises are expected to cost anywhere between 7 and $10 billion. If that number lands at $10 billion, that is $20 billion, obviously split between 30 owners. That's a $666.7 million payday for every single owner across the NBA. That is not a revenue split. That is not something that they have to share with the players or anybody. That's over a $500 million into their net worth overnight, just by adding these two franchises.
By raising your hand.
By raising your hand. And I think really the root of it all came down to that. I don't think that any other thought ran through their head other than, wow, we're about to get a massive payday. And I mean, at the end of the day, these guys are business owners and they own an asset and they want to get the most money out of this asset as possible and sell it when it's worth the most and make money when you can. It's an asset at the end of the day. And these guys are all businessmen and all worth billions of dollars. So that's why they've been successful. I guess my first question to you is, does this make sense to you of like why they would vote yes? And I have a reason wanted them to vote no. And are there any other like downsides to this in your mind off the top of your head?
So for starters, I'm surprised that somebody as tapped in as Bill Simmons didn't think that they were going to get to this threshold.
Yeah.
He's somebody that knows more about basketball and follows more in depth in basketball than a lot of people.
He was talking about this expansion like 5 years ago.
Exactly.
I'm sure you listen. I remember like 5 years ago, he was like on his podcast being like, yeah, the NBA is like playing with the idea of expanding into Vegas. And like, it's just been like this forever, but continue. Go ahead. My bad.
So I'm surprised that he got this one wrong on his thought process, because if you are an owner and like you said, you're getting 2/3 of $1 billion just to add two more teams to the league that you're a part of, that's an automatic yes. And I know what you're going to say as far as like some of the negatives on it, but if you're somebody that is strictly looking at this from a business perspective of, what do I have to do in order to make $750 million? And the only thing that I have to do is say, yes, I want to add two more NBA teams to the league. I'm doing it. No doubt about
it. I guess my question for you is like, why is this good for the league in any way, shape, or form? Because there's so many, we've talked about it so many times, but like, there are so many issues in the NBA currently that seem to have been plaguing the overall quality of a regular season, and that could potentially leak into the playoffs, leak into the finals, and then leak into the overall culture of a franchise. One I think of off the top of my head is the Philadelphia 76ers. And really, just to say it, the example that I'm talking about right now of the issue that the league has is tanking. It's been the word of the last decade plus in the NBA. And the team that I think of automatically of like who this leaks into and all the problems are the Philadelphia 76ers, where they can't get this stink off of them that was created by Brett Brown, and I think his name was, and the quote unquote process, like when I was like in high school, like where
Yes.
they were actively tanking for the top players, which automatically led them to get Joel Embiid and led them to get Ben Simmons, and they never did anything. So, and now we're here like literally like 12 years later, and they're still irrelevant. They're not good. I
So
said
I
this. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, so I'm looking at this like through two different lenses here. One is the tanking lens that you talked about. Do I think that adding two more teams to the NBA is going to make things better or worse for tanking? I think that it'll likely end up staying just the same. I think that this is the NBA's fault is they don't realize what their problems are and they almost act like nothing's wrong. So before the thought process of let's add two more teams to the NBA is even brought to the table, they should have there's five other things that they need to fix before they even think about adding two more teams to the NBA. Off the top of my head is tanking. They need to get this piece of it figured out, and another piece of it is the schedule. They need to get that figured out, and All-Star weekend. They need to get that figured out. All three of those things, in my opinion, are more important than them adding two more teams to the NBA. If anything, they should remove two teams from the NBA. That would eliminate some of the tanking because then all the teams would be better. Regardless of
I
that,
yeah, go ahead.
the other thing that that I was looking at it is like um shoot, you asked me one other thing I'm drawing a blank on.
I forget. I have no idea.
Is this good or bad? I think it has its perks and I think it has its negatives. I think that regardless of how many teams are in the NBA, there is going to be tanking with the way that is currently set up. I think that expanding the NBA and bringing it to more cities is beneficial depending on how those teams are run when they get to those new cities.
There's two things too that I like. One, you're talking about like from a business perspective. Like business perspective is like how much money do these guys need at the end of the day? Like you have an asset that's worth billions of dollars. You get you just signed a massive TV deal that put a ton of money in your pocket that was
Yeah.
no revenue split either. Like how greedy do you have to get? And at what point do the owners have to sit there and be like, we need to actually start worrying about the product that's on the court, because next
Yes.
time in 10 years when the TV deal rolls around, like we want to make sure that we get an even bigger payday than what we got before. So I feel like this vote like wasn't forward thinking enough to the point of like we need to actually worry about like the overall quality of the league and like make sure that people still give a shit about the NBA in 12 years rather than just putting $666 million in their pocket when they already have all the money in the world. Um and the other thing that you said is like take away two teams. It's just the idea that I had that I put in my tweet the other day that I wrote was like, why expand? Why worry about expansion and why not focus on potential relocation? Because they have two cities picked out as of right now. It seems like they have the two cities picked out. It's going to be Vegas and it's going to be Seattle. We'll talk about those two cities in a minute, but let's talk about the idea of expansion. I'm sick. Sorry, I keep coughing. But um the idea of relocation. There are teams in the NBA right now and they've already been named. It's like the New Orleans Pelicans and the Memphis Grizzlies, where are two declining franchises, and there's been nothing but like statistics to back that up, whether that be like season ticket sales, like how they treat their players, how they cater to player injuries, all of that stuff. These two franchises are just flat bad at this point. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. And I don't know if you got the answer to this, but why not take those two franchises and relocate them to Vegas or to Seattle and move two declining franchises into more popular cities and increasing like literally immediately like stick a needle and then and inject them with juice, because that's just automatically going to make those franchises worth more money. They're going to get a nice rebrand that's going to make players potentially want to be there. And the question that I want to ask you is, that would be them being forced, the current ownership group, to be forced to sell their teams to somebody else who's willing to put them in Vegas, correct?
So I looked into this, and based off of what I came across, you do not have to sell your franchise in order to relocate it.
Okay.
So an owner can move their team while maintaining ownership, provided they receive approval from the NBA Board of Governors. Relocation usually occurs when an owner seeks better financial terms, a new arena, or a stronger market support rather than a forced sale. So
That's
hypothetically,
what I just said, though.
no. Hypothetically, they could still be the owners
Yeah, they
of
could be the
both of
owners
these
still.
teams, and just relocate them to different cities. My question to you when we talked about this earlier is like, what difference does it make for these two franchises if they're playing in Iraq versus Las
I think a
Vegas?
ton.
Obviously,
I
you're going
think
to
a
get more
ton.
people at a game in
I
Vegas than
think a
Iraq,
ton.
but like,
I
if you
think
still have
that, like,
incompetence coaching and in your front office, more money doesn't always guarantee that you're going to be more successful.
but from an NBA perspective and a player's perspective and a league perspective, Memphis and New Orleans are literally some of the worst cities in America. Memphis is one of the worst cities in America.
Fair.
So automatically, if you were to be like, "Hey, we're moving to Memphis, to Seattle, to
More
close like
appeal for
almost
those. Yeah.
20-year gap of like fans who have like been starving for a franchise," like,
Yes.
yes, that's the right move because it's not working. I guess where I'm coming from is like, the incompetencies within the building might continue to stay the same, but from a financial perspective, it would be completely
Right.
different because it's failing in Memphis. So, like,
Yeah.
you need to, like, we have no business being in Memphis. It's one of the worst cities ever. Draymond Green the other day, like, went on his podcast and said that they don't even have like a hotel for like players to stay at, like all that stuff. If
Yeah.
it's that bad there, then go and put it somewhere else. Same thing with New Orleans. You're going to take, nobody wants to go to, like, New Orleans. Unfortunately, there's a ton of
It's for football.
issues,
Louisiana is football.
but for a ton of reasons, like literally, like, it's like, not to get like morbid, but it's like legitimately going underwater. And like, it's just like, at some point, like, those are going to be real issues that you need to come up. On top of that, basketball isn't working in New Orleans. It hasn't worked the entire time it's been there. So, like, move it to a new city like Las Vegas, where, and I want to talk about the cities real quick, and let's start with Vegas because I get it. The first thing that everybody's going to say is there has been a narrative growing as of late that tourism in Vegas is dying and it's too expensive. People aren't going there anymore. People aren't partying. People aren't drinking and gambling and doing all this stuff they used to do 30 years ago, 20 years ago. My rebuttal to that is, I've been to Vegas a few times. I love it. It is awesome. There's a ton to do. The hotels are cool. Their shows are awesome. The music's awesome. There's a ton of good clubs. There's a ton of good restaurants. And I spent time at the Raiders facility, and you know this, like 25 minutes away off the strip in Henderson, Nevada, where like all of the Vegas Raiders and everybody lives, is like a beautiful mountain-esque city that isn't the Vegas Strip. So there is clear disconnect there. And really what it comes down to is Vegas isn't giving up. People are doubling down on Vegas. There are professional sports teams moving there. They are building big attractions, big stadiums, the Sphere and the fights, all that stuff, and they're continuing to double down on that. So I like believe in Vegas long term because I just don't think that that's something that they're going to let die.
No, and if you're looking to take a vacation, even if having a major sports team in a city, I know they have the Raiders, but like the more major sports teams that you have in a city, typically the more appealing that location is for people to want to go and visit. And if you have the opportunity, say you live on the East Coast and are you good?
Yeah, I'm just started crying because I had to
You're
cough.
so red. Um, if you're on the East Coast and you're looking to get away come February, And where would you rather go, Memphis or Vegas? I think that's a pretty easy question. I think that sells itself. I understand the Vegas aspect of it. I think that that's a good choice. That's been a spot that they've been talking about relocating a team to for however many years. The
They
Seattle
already
one,
do what? Like the NBA Cup,
they do
and
summer
don't they
league,
do stuff
or
there? Summer
they
League,
do
NBA
summer
Cup
league
there.
there. They do some NBA Cup stuff. They've got the Raiders. They've got
Isn't there a
UFC. They've
baseball
got the
team going there?
Sphere. They're looking at putting the A's there. Yeah, A's are about to go there. So like they're gonna have three major sports teams in Vegas here soon. So like clearly it's not dying down as much as everybody wants to say. Maybe people are just gambling less, but like you can still go out to Vegas and have a good time and not
I think that
necessarily gamble.
I think all of that's true, like the tourism stuff. But like, I got an ad today. I got an email today. I saw on Instagram today that the MGM resorts are cutting a deal for like 3 night stay, $300 with 3 meals a day included. Like all of this
Yeah.
stuff that like I don't think that Vegas is going to like go down and be like a ghost city like Atlantic City or something like that. Like I think that
No.
there are people that still believe in the vision of Vegas and are doubling down on everything. And I don't know. I like the idea of putting an NBA team in there. So I'm cool with that.
Also,
And I
if you're an
uh,
NBA player and you just got paid $375 million, Vegas is probably a pretty fucking good spot to live at.
pretty cool. It's gotta be, some would argue the best.
So like that is certainly an appeal for players too. Like say you are entering free agency and you get an offer from Vegas, I feel like that's going to weigh a little bit heavier than if you're getting an offer from the Pelicans or the Grizzlies, being where
Yeah.
they were at the time.
Yeah. I
So
mean, yes.
I like that spot. And then the other spot that they talked about was Seattle. Another spot that I think makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's a no brainer.
that that's been a spot that probably has been even they've been begging for basketball in Seattle since the day that they left. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I was looking into what happened with the Supersonics and why they ultimately ended up relocating to Oklahoma City. So in 2008, they moved to Oklahoma City due to a failed long-term dispute between new owner Clay Bennett and Seattle lawmakers over funding for a new modern arena. He sold the team due to an inability to acquire public funding. The new owner was supposed to make a good faith attempt to get that funding, but really never did, and just moved them to Oklahoma City. So
That's
as
sad.
long as they're getting the funding out there, I think that would be great.
Yeah, and they already have a football team that's wildly successful. They already
Yeah,
have a major league baseball team that I don't really know too much about, but they
they'll
have
be good.
every major sport. So I guess to close off on all of this, are there any other cities in mind that you would like to see on this list potentially? I know that these are the two probably, but is there anywhere else?
I
Mine
mean,
off rip, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
okay.
I'm just kidding.
I honestly think that uh, I I think that Tennessee is like a hot spot for a lot of sports teams. I don't think it would
Nashville.
be good. Yeah, I don't think Nashville would be good for basketball.
Interesting.
I think Baltimore would be sick for basketball.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But
I
then we have like
they're
Baltimore, DC, Philly.
I know, but like look at New York. They have I mean the Nets
Bad
aren't
example.
in New York technically, but like there's
Bad
two teams
example.
there.
Yeah.
In Texas, they've got two good teams down there. Like they've got teams that are relatively close to one another that it's like not the end of the world if you put a team in Baltimore.
I
I
have a
think that would
legit
be
one.
cool.
I have a legit
Okay.
one.
Hit me.
Shanghai, China.
Okay. Okay. They have
Shanghai,
the
China.
Shanghai Sharks already.
I'm just saying. Let's think about it.
I did
Or
want to talk one
Chicago.
thing about the expansion. Okay. Yeah, the Bulls are literally not a team. I did want to talk one thing about like expansion versus relocation though, because the only team that has really successfully relocated and been good has been the Supersonics
Yeah.
going to Oklahoma City. We've seen the Hornets, the Bobcats, the Pelicans all kind of rotate throughout New Orleans, Charlotte. Now the Hornets are finally in a good
I
spot
was about to
this
say
year,
they're about to win the title this year.
but it's taken them 30 years to
Forever.
get this thing figured out. So,
And
I
two owners.
yeah, so it's really taken a long time, and I that's one of the things that makes me nervous about the relocation piece of this, as far as moving these teams around.
Is
The
it fair
expansion.
to
Go
say
ahead.
that these two cities are really attractive? Like these
Yes.
two cities are like Charlotte, like whose idea was it to throw in franchise in Charlotte? You know what I mean? Like things like that.
Yeah.
Like I think that like the Vegas and the Seattle thing is like these cities make so much sense and it's really attractive.
It does. I agree with you. I think they're more appealing than New Orleans, Charlotte, and what wasn't there like? It was the Bobcats, the Hornets. I don't even know. They were
I have no
all
idea.
they all like bounced around like three different spots and four different names for like a 20-year span. So that should have already been a sign that the NBA was like that the NBA cannot figure it out, where they probably should have moved one of these teams back to Seattle or Vegas after the second go around of having the Bobcats or the Hornets or whatever. Like that should have been a sign where it's like, okay, this isn't really working with these teams in these cities. Like we should begin to look elsewhere. So that falls back onto the NBA. The other thing that I wanted to talk about from the expansion perspective was like, what if they do expand and it ends up like working? I think two teams like might be too much, but I understand that for the sake of having an even number of teams, like you kind of
You
need
had
it.
to.
Um, but I think one team would potentially help out. And the thing that I look to is the Vegas Knights in the NHL. Since the Vegas Knights have been together, they've been like one of the best teams in the NHL in their
Yeah, by far.
short tenure. I was looking through because I was like, I'm pretty sure they're like pretty good. And I have their some of their stats here from since they started. So they were created in 2017, 2018, and this is their division standing and their playoff success every year up until now. So they finished first in the division and they lost in the Stanley Cup Finals. Finished third in the division, lost the first round of the playoffs. Finished first in the division, lost in the conference finals. Finished first in the division, lost in the semifinals. Fourth in the division, didn't make the playoffs. First in the division, they won the Stanley Cup championship in 22-23. Fourth in the division, first round loss. First in the division, second round loss. And they're currently third in the division, but are looking to be a playoff team. So, like, they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first uh, first place finishes in their division and a Stanley Cup championship in 7 years.
I'm not saying that it won't be. I'm not saying that these teams like won't be successful. Like I think that there's a strong chance that that it is going to work for
I'm
those
just vouching
specific
for the
teams.
expansion. I'm vouching for it. That's me
But
vouching for
I
it.
think that what it comes to is like if those teams are good, that means two other teams are going to be bad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's the way I
Yeah.
look at it. So what? Who's going to be bad then? Like fucking like
The
Chicago, like
Nets are just going to suck
yeah,
or forever.
forever.
Yeah.
So
Um, I don't know. I think it's I think I'm planting my flag on the fact that they should just do the relocation of these two teams and not necessarily be so fired up about expanding. However, if you're an owner and you sit there and you see that check coming your way, that's really hard to turn away. And as long as you're looking at your team and saying, "Can I still sell them for more than what I purchased them for?" That's always how these guys are going to think until they start to see the money go down and the return on investment go down. They will always think about paycheck rather than overall league performance first. And that's unfortunate
gross.
because it sucks for the players and it sucks for the fans, because it does both groups a disservice, because you're seeing the money that these owners are getting, and you're the product on the court, and you don't see a dollar of it.
Gross.
So that part of it does suck, and fans and players just have to take the brunt of it. And hopefully one day somebody in the NBA is like, "Hey, why don't we get these guys to like play every game, or why don't we figure out how to make All-Star Weekend like cool?" People love like the fashion, the music that is intertwined with the NBA. Why can't we figure this out? Why can't we figure out a way that kids aren't spending $700 for a Los Angeles Lakers ticket and LeBron's not playing? Now he's been doing better at it, but like this season, but like it sucks when you see a family save up all this money and Steph Curry doesn't play, or Kevin Durant doesn't play, or LeBron or Luca or something. I think Wemby
And there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah, and Wemby and Ant are kind of changing that narrative where like they want to play every night and they want to go out there and put 50 on your head every night. Like I love that out of those guys, but maybe that's just not something that we see until the passing of the guard comes with these older guys kind of leaving the league.
Maybe. Hey, unfortunately, they are going to be expanding. I don't know when, but it's looking like that's going to be the case. So again, a very underreported story that I thought was very interesting. I wrote about it on Sunday, put it out on Twitter, and then we're finishing up and talking about it today. So good talk. My
I just spit it. Good girl, we're getting paper as a passion. Collect the stacks and bring it back, man, and take vision.